Okay, this is a follow-up after I reviewed the video, the first video that I produced. I realized I left out some things, and I had a list of what I was going to talk about, and of course, in the heat of the moment, I didn't follow the list. But one thing that is important for me, the way I shoot. Okay, both of these cameras, the Nikon and the Canon, have hand straps, okay? And because I do not use a tripod when I shoot this particular style, okay? And so I don't have a tripod out here with me. I'm not gonna bring one with me. You are welcome to bring a tripod, but at the state fair, when you're in the garden or when you're inside of the building, you have precious little space to work with, and setting up a tripod is just potentially going to be problematical with other visitors, and we don't want to be obstructive to other people. This is a public area, and whenever I shoot macros in these areas, I try to be as unobstructive and as kind to other visitors that are there as well. I think this is really, really important. Okay, photographers get a bad name because, back off, I'm a photographer. I think that's a bunch of BS. Okay, this is a public area and we need to respect other people. So I don't use a tripod, and one thing that we'll talk about is that when you're hand holding, of course, and part of the problem is as you get older, you have a little bit of shake there, and I'm an old guy, and so this hand strap really helps. That's another reason why I prefer to use the shorter lens rather than the longer lens, because it's lighter. Okay, and one really, really important thing about strobe light is that the sync speed of most DSLRs is around 1/200th to 1/250th of a second. Okay, and so you may think, well, I can't handhold a macro at that shutter speed, but the point is that if you are using a strobe light to light your subject, really the shutter speed is being dictated not by your camera, but it's being dictated by the strobe. If the only light that your camera sees comes from your strobe light, it's the duration of that strobe light that essentially sets your shutter speed. Even though your camera shutter is going to be open for 1/200th of a second, that flash duration is 1/8000th to 1/13,000th of a second. So it's much faster than the shutter speed of your camera. And so you don't typically get blur, okay? And because the light duration from the strobe is so fast, it just stops action. Several years ago at our camera club, we had a macro photographer who didn't use a tripod either. I'm not remembering her name, but how she got her material in focus is she handheld her camera too, and she just moved the camera, in and out, and just kind of fired away as she was shooting. So she's bam, 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 and just hoping to get something in focus. And I don't see anything wrong with it. I don't see why you have to be so perfect to get it all, to sort of get it all at once. I think having a little creativity like that, and you're moving the camera simultaneously, and you never know what you're going to get. Now, she wasn't using a strobe, so moving like that, you get some blur, and that was part of the charm of her work. Okay, the other thing about a tripod is many years ago, 2008 or so, on one of my first on the first visit to Monument Valley, when I been out there, I worked with a Navajo guide, Tom Phillips, and he's a really good photographer, and he's passed away since. Okay, so you can't hire him anymore, but I really learned a lot from him about photographing in the Southwest, and And so on the first trip, we're out there in his Ford Bronco and with his underinflated tires because they travel better over sand, and we're going through Monument Valley over sand and over dune and down roads and in the middle of nowhere. And he pulls over and he says, "Okay, there's the totem over there. Go. It's starting to be sunrise. Why don't you go work on that? Go take some photos of that." So I go in the back and I get my gear. Had my D700 then, okay, and grab the tripod and set the tripod up and put the camera on the tripod. And he looked at me, he says, "Get that damn camera off the tripod." And I looked at him and I said, "Oh, did I hire the wrong guy?" Okay, and he said, "You know, the tripod is an anchor." He said, yes, you will use the tripod when you compose your shot, but he said what you should do is just take your camera, put it up to your eye, and walk around and get the right composition, okay, and look and see and be one with the place and understand what you're imaging. When you find the composition that you're after and what you are after, then get your tripod, position it, and take the picture. And I think I've used that approach to my macro photography when I'm in the garden, for example, and for really any macro photography. The tripod really is an anchor, and you know, you set yourself and you sort of take the same picture in the same spot because it's such a pain to set up, and especially with all the people outside and in the building, you're going to be bumping up against them. They might knock your tripod over. It doesn't work for me, okay? It may work for you, okay, but it doesn't work for me. So I like to, when I shoot my macro work, I will show you in a later video, I've got the camera in and I'm just going all around the subject. I'm moving the strobe and the camera simultaneously for the right composition, and when I see it, I fire it off, and that's how I work. So I'm not going to have a tripod with me, and plus with my bad knees, it's an extra thing to carry, and it's not going to happen. That's all I got for that. Bye.